Hi class, so today in my presentation I'm going to be exploring Caravaggio and Artemisa Gentileschi and their use of chiaroscuro in Baroque art. So basically they used chiaroscuro to create visually striking and emotionally impactful works. Specifically, we're going to be going over and looking at 3 of their works today that I think exemplify this and really show it off well and make it easy for people to understand how they used it and its use. So those 3 works are The Calling of St. Matthew, The Conversion of St. Paul, and Judith Slaying Holofernes. So before I keep saying chiaroscuro, I think it's best I explain what it really means, so then we can get on with this presentation and I can show off how they effectively used it and kind of pioneered a new art technique that's used by countless artists today and is created such beautiful works that we still study them to this day. So chiaroscuro is an art technique pioneered by artists initially pioneered by Leonardo da Vinci. So he's the first person that we can pinpoint that he used it. It's basically a contrast between light and dark to draw attention towards certain elements that the artist wants you to pay attention to and away from others, while also adding emotional depth to the painting. So the word itself is derived from Italian, meaning light and dark. So Caravaggio's The Calling of St. Matthew is a perfect example of this technique. So in the painting, Caravaggio highlights certain things that he wants you to look at, like the figures' dramatic facial expressions and the gestures of these figures, which are illuminated in which the light strikes, so you're able to clearly see that, while making things darker or shadows of things that he doesn't want you to see or pay attention to. So your focus is paying attention to the one thing that he thinks is most important, or the focal point. So this use of light creates focus, emotion, storytelling, and transforms a simple narrative into a powerful visual experience. So in The Calling of St. Matthew, light takes on a crucial role within the scene. A sharp beam of light cuts through darkness, guiding the viewer's eyes directly at Matthew at a moment of spiritual awakening. So this kind of ties into the idea of the sublime we learned in class, because this is something so spiritual and so important that it's hard to describe without these certain special elements. So this is the moment where the divine enters an ordinary setting and is emphasized by the difference or contrast between the illuminated figures and the shadowy background, heightening the drama and symbolism of the scene. As art historian Andrew Graham Dixon describes Caravaggio's work as made from darkness and light, always the shadows encroach the pools of blackness that threaten to obliterate it all, quote unquote. This interplay of light and shadow not only enhances the visual intensity, but also conveys the emotional and spiritual weight of the narrative. The use of chiaroscuro here does not just create focus, it transforms the scene into a spiritual experience. It allows the viewers and draws the viewers into a moment of divine intervention, as though they were there to witness it. In The Conversion of St. Paul, Caravaggio again uses chiaroscuro to depict a life-changing spiritual moment. So a radiant beam of light overwhelms Paul as he is falling to the ground, which symbolizes his dramatic encounter with the divine. There's a stark contrast created between the illuminated figure of Paul and the deep shadows around him that isolate him, which highlights his vulnerability and transformation in the scene. As Troy Thomas discusses in his article, Expressive Aspects of Caravaggio's First Inspiration of St. Matthew, Caravaggio's light and shadow make spiritual moments feel deeply personal and real. These techniques invite viewers to connect emotionally with Paul's experience as if they too are encountering this overwhelming divine force. The painting again connects to the idea of the sublime, which we discussed in class, just as a reminder, the sublime describes experiences that are so vast and powerful that they inspire both awe and fear, which usually God is something that does that to people. And the overwhelming presence of God leaving Paul is something that we're stunned by its magnitude and inspires awe and fear, and therefore is part of, as we call it, the sublime. And Caravaggio balances the supernatural and the earthly meticulously. Through the rendered horse and handler grounded the scene in reality, making the divine light feel even more extraordinary in context. Artemisa Gentileschi in many ways followed in Caravaggio's footsteps through her use of chiaroscuro in Baroque art. So specifically in the painting, we're going to be focusing on Judith slaying Hoffernes. She uses the light to emphasize the strength and determination of Judith as she beheads Hoffernes. So it's a sharp contrast between the light and shadow, highlight the intense physical and emotional drama of the scene. As art historian Mary D. Gerard describes it, Gentileschi's work as chiaroscuro illumination, her pairing of earthly pigments with jewel-like ones, and her creation of heroines that are formidable yet sensual, quote unquote. This combination of bold lighting and rich color captures not only the visual drama of the scene, but also the psychological complexity of Judith as a character in many ways. The light emphasizes more than the action. It draws attention to the power dynamics within the scene, and it symbolizes Judith as a symbol of strength and justice. And again, her use of chiaroscuro allows Gentileschi to create a moment that feels both deeply personal and universally impactful. So just to reiterate, through their mastery of chiaroscuro, Caravaggio and Gentileschi transform Baroque art using light and shadow to create stories that are just as emotionally powerful as they are visually striking, appeasing, and appealing. In The Calling of St. Matthew, light symbolizes divine intervention. In The Conversion of St. Paul, it overwhelms and transforms, evoking the sublime. And in Judith slaying Hoffernes, it highlights physical and psychological depth and action. In all, chiaroscuro is not just a technique, like an artistic technique. It's a storytelling tool that allows artists to guide the viewer's gaze, emotions, focus, attention, and ultimately create an unforgettable visual experience. Caravaggio and Gentileschi's works continue to inspire awe, reminding us the power of light to shape art and human connection.